This test excludes you as the biological father.
Then who is?
Mr. Wilder, stand up.
The first time Marcus Brooks heard the words, he didn't understand them. Not at first. He was standing in a children's hospital hallway that smelled like sanitizer and warm plastic, watching nurses pass with clipboards, watching the floor shine under fluorescent light that made everyone look a little too pale. Behind a glass door, his son lay asleep with an IV taped to his arm, chest rising and falling in a slow rhythm that had become Marcus's new clock. The doctor, Dr. Serrano, held a tablet in one hand and a folded paper in the other. "We ran the compatibility panel," she said, voice careful. "Your HLA markers." Marcus nodded like he knew exactly what that meant. Dr. Serrano paused, then translated the science into something sharp. "You're not a match," she said, "and your profile doesn't align the way we'd expect for a biological parent." Marcus blinked. "What?" The doctor's eyes softened. "It doesn't mean you're not his father in the way that matters," she said quickly, "but it does mean we should confirm something medically because it affects donor search strategies." Marcus's mouth went dry. "Confirm what?" Dr. Serrano's voice lowered a fraction, as if the hallway itself didn't deserve to hear. "We should confirm paternity," she said. Marcus felt the sentence hit his body before his mind could catch it. Like cold water, like a floor shifting, like a door closing. He stared past her shoulder at the glass window that reflected his own face, tired, unshaven, older than he'd been a month ago, and he waited for the doctor to laugh and say, "I'm sorry, wrong chart." But she didn't. She just stood there, the paper in her hand suddenly heavier than any object should be. Marcus's voice came out thin. "That's impossible." Dr. Serrano didn't argue. She didn't need to, because medicine doesn't argue. It documents. "It happens," she said, gently. "Sometimes families discover this during medical testing. We can do a simple DNA confirmation. It's quick." Marcus's throat tightened. "My wife," he started, then stopped, because the next words felt like betrayal even forming them. "My wife wouldn't—" He couldn't finish. Dr. Serrano nodded once, like she'd heard that sentence 100 times. "Regardless," she said, "we need clarity for him." Marcus looked through the glass again at the boy he'd raised for 11 years, Jaden, the kid who used to fall asleep on Marcus's chest during movie nights, the kid who called him dad without hesitation, the kid who looked at Marcus like he was a fixed point in the world. Marcus's hands curled into fists at his sides. "Okay," he whispered, "do it." And in that single whispered word, a 12-year marriage began to crack, quietly at first, then all at once, because the DNA test that was supposed to help save a child's life was about to expose who had helped create it. And it wasn't Marcus, it was Ethan Wilder, Marcus's white best friend, the man who had stood beside him at his wedding, the man who had been in his living room 1,000 times, laughing at the same jokes, holding the same baby, calling himself Uncle Ethan. If you're wondering how a friendship like that turns into a family-shattering betrayal, you have to rewind to the beginning, to the kind of love that looks unbreakable from the outside, and to the quiet, ordinary moments where the truth was already hiding, waiting for science to finally speak. Marcus met Talia Freeman in a crowded college cafeteria where the tables were too close and the noise never fully died. She was laughing at something her friend said, head tilted back, sunlight catching her cheek through a tall window. Marcus didn't approach her with a line. He approached her with a question. "What are you laughing at?" he asked. Talia looked him up and down, smiled and said, "Something you wouldn't understand." Marcus grinned. "Try me." They were the kind of couple who became them quickly, Not in a reckless way, in a rooted way. They built their relationship on routines. Sunday grocery runs, late-night drives with the windows down, folding laundry together while arguing about which movie to watch. They weren't flashy, they were solid. By the time they married, their friends called them the real thing. Talia's aunt cried at the ceremony. Marcus's mother hugged Talia so tightly, Talia's heels lifted off the ground. And Ethan Wilder, Marcus's best friend since freshman year, stood as best man, his toast half comedy, half genuine emotion. "You're the brother I chose," Ethan told Marcus, raising his glass. "And Talia, you're the woman who finally made him stop acting like he's invincible." Everyone laughed. Talia laughed too. And it all felt right. Ethan wasn't just Marcus's friend. He was woven into their life like an extra thread. Ethan had grown up in the same city, but in a different reality. His family had money, not in an obnoxious way, but in the way that made doors open easier. He went to the same college as Marcus on a mixture of family support and opportunity. Marcus, on the other hand, had built himself up with scholarships, part-time jobs, stubbornness. That difference never mattered between them, not in the ways that count, because Ethan admired Marcus's drive, and Marcus appreciated Ethan's steadiness. They balanced each other. After graduation, Ethan worked in tech. Marcus became a firefighter. Talia became a nurse, their lives filled with adult obligations, shifts, bills, exhaustion, but Ethan stayed close. He showed up at barbecues. He helped paint the nursery when Talia got pregnant. He stood in the hospital waiting room when Jaden was born, holding a coffee that went cold because he didn't sit down once. When Marcus first held his son, Ethan was there, eyes shining. "He looks like you," Ethan whispered. Marcus laughed softly, a sound that almost broke. "He looks like everything," Marcus said. Talia smiled from the hospital bed, tired and radiant. In that moment, the world felt clean, like love did its job. Jaden grew into the kind of kid who made strangers smile. He had Marcus's dimples and Talia's intensity when he concentrated. He was smart, curious, stubborn, the kind of child who asked, "Why?" until adults ran out of answers. Ethan became Uncle Ethan naturally. He was the one who brought small gifts, who built Lego sets with Jaden on the floor, who showed up for baseball games when Marcus was on shift and Talia was working overnight. From the outside, it looked like community. It looked like chosen family. It looked like stability. And for a long time, it was. But stability can coexist with secrets, because secrets don't always announce themselves with drama. Sometimes they live inside a single night, a single bad decision, a single moment of weakness that someone buries so deep they convince themselves it never happened. The first strain in Marcus and Talia's marriage didn't come from infidelity. It came from life. Marcus's job took pieces of him. He'd come home smelling like smoke and adrenaline, eyes distant, body still braced for danger even while holding a fork at the dinner table. Talia's job took pieces of her too. She worked long shifts, watched people suffer, learned to keep her emotions tucked away in neat compartments. They were tired in different languages, and tired people sometimes miss each other even while sitting in the same room. Ethan became the constant. He was the friend who answered texts at midnight. He was the one who could make Marcus laugh on the days Marcus felt hollow. He was the one who could talk to Talia about nursing without forcing her to translate. Sometimes Ethan came over when Marcus was on shift, just to help Talia fix something, or to drop off groceries, or to keep her company when the house felt too quiet. Marcus never questioned it. Why would he? Ethan was family, and families don't cross that line, not in Marcus's mind. The night that created the secret wasn't marked by romance, it was marked by grief. Marcus's father died suddenly when Jaden was 2. a heart attack, a call in the middle of the night, a world that changed before sunrise. Marcus fell apart quietly. He didn't scream, he didn't collapse, he went numb. He stood at the funeral in his dress uniform like a statue, jaw clenched, eyes dry. Talia tried to hold him, but Marcus felt too far away from his own body to be held. After the funeral, relatives filled the house with food and condolences, then left. The silence afterward was brutal. Marcus returned to work too soon because he didn't know what else to do with pain. Talia stayed home with a toddler and a husband who felt like a locked door. Ethan came over that week, carrying takeout containers and a gentle tone. "How are you holding up?" he asked Talia one evening when Marcus was on a night shift. Talia tried to answer like she always did. "I'm fine," but her voice cracked. "I don't know how to help him," she whispered. Ethan's face softened. "You're here," he said. "That matters." Talia stared at the floor. "What if it doesn't?" she said. That sentence didn't sound like cheating. It sounded like loneliness, the kind that makes you dangerous to yourself. Ethan sat with her at the kitchen table for hours, just talking, about grief, about how men sometimes carry pain like a private burden, about how being strong can look like shutting down. Talia cried quietly. Ethan passed tissues. The house stayed still. When Talia finally stood to put dishes away, she swayed, slightly. Exhaustion, dehydration, grief. Ethan rose instinctively to steady her. His hand touched her arm. A small contact, normal. Then it lingered. Too long, too warm. Talia looked up. Ethan looked down. For a second, time held its breath. Then Ethan stepped back quickly, as if he'd touched fire. "I should go," he said. Talia's throat tightened. "Ethan, I should go," he repeated, sharper. He grabbed his jacket, walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the knob. "I'm sorry," he said without turning around. Talia didn't answer, because she didn't know what the apology was for yet. 2 weeks later, it happened anyway. Not at the kitchen table. At a small bar near the hospital where Talia worked, a place nurses went after shifts when they wanted noise to drown out the images in their heads. Talia went with co-workers. She didn't plan to get drunk. She planned to sit, sip, and go home. But one co-worker brought up, "Marcus, he seems distant lately," and the words hit Talia harder than she expected. She drank more than she should have, and then Ethan showed up, not because he was stalking her, because Marcus had texted him earlier. "Can you check on her? I'm stuck at the station." Ethan walked into the bar, saw Talia, and immediately understood she was not okay. He slid into the seat beside her, voice soft. "I'm here," he said. Talia laughed bitterly. "Everyone says that." Ethan looked at her, eyes serious. "I mean it." Outside, rain started. Inside, music thumped. Talia's world felt blurry around the edges. Ethan drove her home because she wasn't safe to drive. In the driveway, the rain hit the windshield in steady pulses. Talia sat in the passenger seat, staring forward. "I hate this," she whispered. "I hate feeling alone when I'm married." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're not alone." Talia turned her head slowly. "You don't get it," she said, voice thick. "You go home and you're not responsible for anyone else's pain." Ethan flinched. "I'm responsible for my own," he said quietly. Talia stared at him, and then, as if the loneliness reached out and grabbed the nearest hand, she leaned in. Ethan hesitated. For a second, he did the right thing. He pulled back. "We can't," he whispered. Talia's eyes filled. "I just need to feel like someone sees me," she said. And Ethan, who had always been the steady one, the loyal one, the one who knew better, failed in the way people fail when they believe they deserve comfort more than consequences. He kissed her, and in the rain-soaked darkness of a parked car, Marcus's life was altered without his knowledge. It wasn't a love story, it was a collapse. The next morning, Talia woke up with her heart racing. She stared at her wedding ring like it was evidence. Ethan texted her one sentence. "I'm sorry. It can't happen again." Talia didn't respond. She went into the shower and let the water hit her face until her breathing slowed. She told herself it was a mistake, a one-time lapse, a grief-fueled, exhaustion-fueled disaster that would never be repeated. Ethan and Talia avoided each other for months. Ethan stopped coming over. Marcus noticed and assumed Ethan was busy. He didn't ask questions because he trusted Ethan. When Talia found out she was pregnant, she stared at the test for a long time, because the timing was close enough to be terrifying. She did what people do when reality threatens to destroy everything. She chose the story that allowed her to keep breathing. Marcus is the father, she told herself. Marcus has to be. And because the math wasn't definitive in her mind, because she didn't want to know, because she couldn't face what knowing would do, she never tested, she never confessed, she buried the night and built a family over it. And years passed, and the secret stayed quiet, because secrets can stay quiet when nobody forces them to speak, until medicine does. By the time Jaden turned 11, Marcus and Talia had rebuilt something that looked strong again. They weren't perfect, but they were better. Marcus went to therapy quietly after a near-miss call at work shook him. Talia learned to ask for help instead of swallowing everything. They took vacations. They argued and repaired. They laughed. They looked, from the outside, like a marriage that survived the hard years. Ethan re-entered their lives slowly, carefully. He showed up to Jaden's birthday party with a gift and a smile that felt slightly strained. Marcus hugged him hard. "Missed you, man," Marcus said. Ethan's smile flickered. "Yeah," he replied. "Me too." Talia avoided his eyes, but she told herself the past was dead. 11 years is a long time. 11 years is enough to convince yourself you got away with it. And then Jaden got sick. At first, it was small. Fatigue, bruising, a fever that didn't break when it should. Talia noticed quickly because she was a nurse. She took him in. Tests turned into more tests. A specialist appointment appeared on the calendar like a storm warning. Then came the diagnosis that rearranged the whole family. A blood disorder that required aggressive treatment, possibly a transplant. And suddenly, the question wasn't about the past. It was about survival. Doctors explained donor matching. They ran the first panels. And then Dr. Serrano stepped into that hallway and said the sentence Marcus never thought he'd hear. "We should confirm paternity." The DNA test was simple. Cheek swabs, a sterile kit, forms signed with shaking hands. Marcus tried not to look at Talia while they did it, because he didn't want to see suspicion on his own face. Talia tried to keep her breathing steady. She told herself it could still be fine. She told herself science sometimes makes mistakes, but her body already knew. Her body had known for 11 years. 3 days later, Marcus's phone rang while he was sitting in his truck outside the hospital. The lab number on the screen looked like any other medical call. Marcus answered. "Mr. Brooks," a voice said, professional, neutral. "We have the results." Marcus swallowed. "Okay." A pause. "Probability of paternity," the voice continued, "is 0%. For a moment, Marcus couldn't hear anything else. His ears rang. His hands went numb around the phone. He stared straight ahead at the hospital entrance, as if it might explain reality to him. "Sir?" the voice asked. Marcus forced air into his lungs. "Say it again," he whispered. The voice repeated it, slower. Marcus ended the call without remembering to say goodbye. He sat in the truck for a full minute, unmoving, trying to comprehend what 0% means. It doesn't mean unlikely. It means impossible. And in that impossible space, Marcus's mind did what minds do when a life collapses. It searched for the nearest explanation. Talia cheated. Talia lied. Talia. Then his mind grabbed something else. Ethan, because suddenly, tiny moments from the past lit up like flares. Ethan's absence after Marcus's father died. The way Ethan and Talia used to talk in the kitchen when Marcus came home late. The way Ethan sometimes looked at Jaden, not with a stranger's distance, but with something deeper. Marcus had never called it anything. Now the word formed like a bruise. Guilt. Marcus's hands started shaking. He didn't go inside right away, because walking into that hospital room meant seeing his son, and knowing the world had shifted under both of them. But he couldn't stay in the truck forever. Jaden needed him. So Marcus wiped his face, inhaled, and walked in like a man carrying a grenade in his chest. Talia knew before Marcus said a word. He walked into Jaden's room with a smile that didn't fit his eyes. He hugged Jaden too tightly. He kissed his forehead too slowly. Then he looked at Talia and said, "We need to talk." Talia followed him into a quiet family waiting room down the hall. The room had a couch, a water dispenser, a poster about hand washing. Marcus closed the door. He didn't yell. He didn't slam anything. He just held up his phone with the lab result on the screen. "Talia," he said, voice low, "explain this." Talia stared at the screen, her face drained of color. Her mouth opened, then closed. Marcus's voice sharpened. "Explain it." Talia's eyes filled. "Marcus." "Don't," he cut in. "Don't start with my name like it's a shield." Talia's shoulders sagged. Her voice came out in a whisper. "I didn't know for sure," she said. Marcus blinked. "You didn't know for sure," he repeated slowly, as if tasting poison. Talia started crying quietly, hands shaking. "It was one time," she whispered. "It was years ago. It was—" Marcus felt his chest tighten. "With who?" Talia didn't answer fast enough. Marcus's jaw clenched. "With who?" Talia's voice broke. "Ethan!" The name hit the room like a gunshot. Marcus stumbled back half a step, not because he was weak, but because his body couldn't stay upright under that kind of betrayal. His best friend, his brother, his son's uncle, and Talia, his wife, had carried it alone for 11 years. Marcus's voice was barely audible. "You let him hold my son," he whispered. "You let him sit at my table." Talia sobbed. "I was scared," she said. "I thought you'd leave. I thought I'd lose everything." Marcus laughed once, sharp and empty. "You did lose everything," he said. "You just didn't tell me." Talia reached for him instinctively. Marcus stepped back. "Don't touch me," he said, and in that sentence, their marriage shifted from wounded to shattered. Marcus didn't confront Ethan that day, not immediately, because Jaden was still in the hospital, still fighting a disease that didn't care about adult betrayal. Marcus held it together for Jaden. He sat by the bed, he told jokes, he played card games, he acted like a father, because he was. Then, late at night, when Talia fell asleep in a chair and Jaden's breathing steadied, Marcus walked out of the hospital into cold air and called Ethan. Ethan answered on the second ring. "Hey man," Ethan said, warm, automatic. "How's Jaden tonight?" Marcus closed his eyes. "Are you alone?" Marcus asked. Ethan hesitated. "Yeah, why?" Marcus's voice went flat. "We did a DNA test." Silence. Ethan didn't ask why. He didn't say, "What do you mean?" He didn't act confused. He just stayed silent long enough for Marcus to know the truth was already sitting on Ethan's tongue. Marcus's throat tightened. "It says I'm not his father." Ethan exhaled slowly. "Marcus," he began. Marcus cut him off. "Are you?" Ethan didn't answer. Marcus's voice rose for the first time, sharp with pain. "Are you his father, Ethan?" A long pause. Then Ethan whispered, "I don't know." Marcus laughed again, a broken sound. "You don't know," Marcus repeated. "You don't know." Ethan's voice cracked. "It was a long time ago." Marcus's hands shook. "Answer me." Ethan swallowed audibly. "Yes," he said. "It could be. It could be me." Marcus's vision blurred. His best friend had just admitted what Marcus's marriage couldn't survive. Marcus's voice went cold. "You've been watching me raise your son," he said. Ethan's breath hitched. "He's your son," Ethan said quickly. "You raised him," Marcus snapped. "Don't you dare!" Ethan tried to speak again, but Marcus didn't let him. "You don't get to say that like it makes you noble," Marcus said. "You don't get to wrap yourself in my fatherhood like it's proof you're decent." Ethan's voice broke. "I'm sorry." Marcus's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "Sorry doesn't touch this," Ethan whispered. "What do you want me to do?" Marcus stared at the dark parking lot, the hospital lights glowing behind him like a reminder of what mattered most. "I want you gone," he said. "Forever." Then he ended the call. And in the silence afterward, Marcus understood something terrifying. The betrayal was deep, but it wasn't the biggest threat. The biggest threat was what this truth could do to Jaden when he was already fighting for his life. The next weeks became a double war, a medical war with treatments and tests and medication schedules, and an emotional war with a marriage collapsing in slow motion behind hospital curtains. Marcus and Talia stopped touching. They stopped sleeping in the same room. Their conversations became logistics. "His meds are at 6. Lab results at noon. Insurance called." Behind the logistics lived a question neither of them could escape. What do we do with the truth? Talia wanted to confess everything to Jaden immediately, as if honesty could cleanse the guilt. Marcus refused. "He's a kid," Marcus said. "He's sick. He doesn't need adult chaos on top of it." Talia cried. "It's his life," she whispered. Marcus's voice went raw. "And I'm still his dad." Talia looked at him. "Are you going to leave us?" Marcus stared at her, eyes tired. "I don't know," he said honestly, because leaving Talia felt like justice, but leaving Jaden felt like death. And Marcus realized the cruelest part of betrayal isn't the act itself. It's the way it forces you to choose between your own dignity and the person you love who didn't choose the lie. Jaden didn't choose any of this. The major twist came not from Ethan, but from Talia. One night, after Jaden fell asleep, Talia finally told Marcus the piece of the story she'd avoided. "It wasn't a relationship," she said, voice shaking. "It wasn't ongoing. It was one night, after your dad died." Marcus's body went still. Talia continued quickly, as if speed could soften impact. "You were gone," she said. "You were working. You were grieving. I was alone and I was drowning and Ethan was there and—" She covered her mouth, sobbing. "I hated myself the next day." Marcus stared at her. "And then you got pregnant," he said. Talia nodded, tears spilling. "And I thought it had to be you. The timing, Marcus, it was close. I told myself it was you because I needed it to be you." Marcus's voice was bitter. "You needed it." Talia flinched. "Yes," she admitted, "because I didn't want to destroy our family." Marcus's laugh was sharp. "So you built it on a lie?" Talia whispered. "I tried to bury it." Marcus's eyes burned. "You didn't bury it," he said. "You planted it, and we've been living on top of it for 11 years. Talia collapsed into the chair, shaking. "I love you," she whispered. Marcus's face tightened. "Love without honesty is just possession," he said quietly. Talia looked up, eyes wide. Marcus didn't say it to be cruel. He said it because it was true. And truth, once it finally arrives, doesn't care who it hurts. Ethan tried to come to the hospital. Marcus stopped him at the entrance. He didn't punch him. He didn't shout. He simply stood between Ethan and the door like a wall. Ethan's eyes were red. "Marcus, I just want to see him." Marcus's voice was calm in the most dangerous way. "You don't get to want things anymore," Marcus said. Ethan swallowed. "He's my—" Marcus's eyes flashed. "Finish that sentence," he warned. Ethan closed his mouth. Marcus stepped closer, low voice. "You helped create this," he said, "and then you watched me carry it. You don't get access now because guilt finally hurts." Ethan's face crumpled. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't know for sure." Marcus leaned in. "You knew enough to stay quiet," he said. Ethan's shoulders sagged. "What do you want me to do?" he asked again, desperate. Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Leave." Ethan nodded slowly, like he was finally understanding consequences. He turned and walked away, shoulders hunched, disappearing into the hospital parking lot, like a man leaving a funeral. Marcus watched him go and felt no satisfaction, only a heavy, sick emptiness, because losing Ethan wasn't the goal. Ethan had already been lost the night he crossed the line. Marcus was just acknowledging it. Months passed. Jaden's treatment stabilized, the donor search expanded, and with the truth about paternity known, the medical team adjusted strategies. Talia asked, quietly, if Ethan should be tested as a potential donor. Marcus's stomach turned, but he also understood what father meant medically, and he understood what father meant emotionally. Those two definitions were now at war. Marcus agreed, not because he wanted Ethan in their lives, but because Jaden's survival mattered more than Marcus's pride. Ethan was tested. He was not a match. The irony hit hard and cruel. The man who had stolen Marcus's place biologically couldn't even provide what biology might have provided. Jaden would need another path. The donor search continued, and one day, a match was found through the registry. Not perfect, but possible. The transplant happened. It was terrifying. But Jaden made it through, and when Marcus watched his son sleep after the procedure, his hand curled around Marcus's finger, the way it had when Jaden was a toddler. Marcus felt tears finally come, quiet and relentless, not because the marriage was saved, because the child was. After the medical crisis eased, the personal crisis became unavoidable. Marcus moved out. Not dramatically, not with a slammed door. He rented a small apartment 15 minutes away so he could still be near Jaden. Talia didn't beg him to stay. She cried, yes. She apologized, yes. But she also understood, in a way she hadn't before, that forgiveness is not automatic. It's earned, and some things change the shape of love forever. Marcus filed for separation. They began therapy, not as a romantic rescue, but as a way to protect Jaden from becoming collateral damage. They sat in a counselor's office with tissues on the table and soft lighting and silence that felt heavier than arguments. The counselor asked, "What do you want your son to learn from this?" Marcus answered first, voice steady. "I want him to learn that truth matters," he said, "even when it hurts." Talia whispered, "I want him to learn he's loved." Marcus nodded. "He is," he said, "but he's also owed honesty." That was the line they kept returning to. Love, honesty, protection, and the thing nobody wanted to say out loud, identity. Because the DNA didn't just shatter a marriage, it also threatened to shatter how a boy understood himself. Jaden had always known he was a black kid with 2 black parents. Now biology complicated that story, and Marcus refused to let anyone turn that complication into shame. Not for Jaden, not for anyone. They told Jaden slowly, not with a dramatic sit-down and a single devastating sentence, with a series of conversations guided by professionals, paced by Jaden's age and emotional capacity. Marcus started with the part that mattered most. "You're my son," he told Jaden one afternoon at the apartment, sitting on the floor building a model kit. Jaden looked up. "I know," he said, like it was obvious. Marcus swallowed. "I mean, always," he said. "No matter what." Jaden frowned. "Why are you saying it like that?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "Because sometimes families learn new information," he said carefully, "about DNA, about biology." Jaden's face tightened. "Like the hospital stuff?" Marcus nodded. Jaden's hand stilled. Marcus continued, voice calm. "The tests showed that I'm not your biological father," he said. "But I am your dad, the dad who raised you, the dad who loves you." Jaden stared at him, eyes wide, breathing shallow. For a moment, Jaden looked like he might laugh. Then his face crumpled. "What?" he whispered. Marcus reached for him slowly, giving him space to pull away if he wanted. Jaden didn't pull away. He leaned into Marcus's chest, like his body knew where safety lived even, if his mind was panicking. "Does Mom know?" Jaden asked, voice muffled. Marcus's throat tightened. "Yes," he said. "We're figuring it out together." Jaden's voice shook. "So who is it?" Marcus hesitated. The counselor had advised honesty, but careful timing. They had prepared for this question. Still, hearing it from Jaden's mouth felt like stepping on glass. Marcus didn't say the name yet. Instead, he asked, "Do you want to know now?" Jaden's fingers gripped Marcus's shirt. "Yes," Jaden whispered. "I need to know." So Marcus told him. "Ethan," Marcus said quietly. "Uncle Ethan." Jaden's body went rigid. For a second, his face showed something pure and childlike, confusion so intense it looked like pain. Then his eyes flashed with anger. "He's not my uncle," Jaden said. Marcus nodded. "No," he agreed. "He's not." Jaden pushed back, wiping his face hard. "Did you know?" he demanded. Marcus's voice was firm. "No," he said. "I found out when you got sick." Jaden's breathing quickened. "Did Mom?" he started. Marcus didn't interrupt, but his face answered before his words did. Jaden's lips trembled. "She lied," he whispered. Marcus didn't defend Talia. He didn't attack her either. He said the truth, as gently as he could. "She made a choice a long time ago," Marcus said, "and it was wrong, and we're dealing with it." Jaden stared at the model kit on the floor like it had betrayed him too. Then he whispered, "So what am I?" That question wasn't about race in a political way. It was about belonging, about coherence. Marcus answered the only way a father can answer. "You're you," Marcus said. "You're Jaden Brooks. You're my son. You're your mom's son. Your biology doesn't change your soul." Jaden's eyes filled again. Marcus held him, and in that moment, Marcus understood the quiet truth that kept him from hating his own life. Fatherhood isn't erased by DNA, but betrayal is still betrayal. Both things can be true. The divorce finalized a year later, not with fireworks, with paperwork and mediation, and long conversations about custody schedules. Marcus and Talia agreed on shared custody because Jaden needed both parents, and because, despite everything, Talia was still a loving mother. They created boundaries. Ethan was not included. No visits, no calls, no, just let him meet him once. Jaden didn't want it. Marcus didn't want it. And the court didn't force it because legal fatherhood was Marcus's, established for years. Ethan tried once more, through a letter. He wrote about regret, about shame, about wanting to make things right. Marcus read the letter, then burned it over the sink, watching the paper curl and darken. Not because he enjoyed it, because some things don't get made right. Some things get lived through, and the way you live through them becomes the point. Years later, When Jaden was 16 and healthier, he asked Marcus a question one night while they were sitting on the porch, summer air thick, cicadas loud. "Do you ever think about it?" Jaden asked. Marcus didn't pretend. "Yeah," he said. "I do." Jaden stared out at the streetlights. "I don't hate you," he said suddenly, "for leaving Mom." Marcus's chest tightened. "I didn't leave you," he replied. "I know," Jaden said. "That's what I mean." Jaden's voice lowered. "Sometimes I wonder if it would have been easier if nobody told me." Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Easier doesn't mean better." Jaden nodded slowly. After a pause, Jaden asked the question that showed Marcus exactly who his son was becoming. "Do you think Ethan is a bad person?" Jaden asked. Marcus inhaled. He didn't want to poison Jaden with hate, but he refused to sanitize betrayal. "I think Ethan made choices that harmed people," Marcus said, carefully. "And I think he did it while pretending he was loyal. That matters." Jaden nodded, absorbing it. Then he said quietly, "So we just live with it?" Marcus looked at the sky. "We live past it," he said. "That's different." Jaden stared at him. Marcus continued, voice steady. "You don't owe him anything," he said, "but you also don't have to let his mistake define you." Jaden exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding something inside. Then he leaned his head back against the porch chair. "Okay," he whispered. And the word didn't fix everything, but it sounded like the beginning of peace. If you're watching this, and you're thinking this story is just about a DNA test, it's not. The test didn't create the betrayal. It exposed it. The betrayal was already there, buried under years of birthdays and hospital visits and family dinners. Science didn't break the marriage. A secret did. Science just turned the secret into a fact no one could talk around. And there's one more thing worth saying out loud, because stories like this can easily turn cruel if we let them. This isn't about race as a punchline. This isn't about how could that happen, like people's identities are jokes. This is about trust, about choices, about what happens when someone uses closeness as cover. A black family didn't shatter because DNA has opinions about skin color. It shattered because two adults broke trust and let a child pay the emotional price years later. The only people who should carry shame in this story are the ones who chose deception. Not the kid, never the kid. Marcus never stopped being Jaden's dad. He drove him to practice. He taught him how to shave. He stayed up late, helping with school projects, and pretending he wasn't exhausted because Jaden was finally healthy, enough to have normal problems again. Talia rebuilt her life too. Not easily, not without guilt, but she became more honest than she'd ever been, and she made one promise she kept. She never asked Jaden to protect her feelings from the truth. Ethan moved away. New city, new job, new life. But Marcus knew something about consequences. You can move your body away from what you've done. You can't move your mind. And sometimes the punishment isn't public. It's private. It's waking up and realizing you were loved by someone who will never speak to you again. It's being the reason a child had to ask, "What am I?" It's knowing you didn't just break a marriage, you broke a story a kid needed to feel safe. The DNA test shattered a 12-year marriage. It ended a lifelong friendship, but it didn't erase the only relationship that mattered most. Because Jaden grew up knowing one thing with absolute certainty. Marcus chose him, not by biology. By presence, by sacrifice, by staying. And if you've ever wondered what makes someone a parent, here's the simplest answer. It's not just who created you, it's who refuses to abandon you when the truth gets ugly. So here's a question to sit with. If you discovered a truth like this, one that rewrites your entire past, what would you protect first? Your pride, or the child who didn't ask for any of it? Marcus chose the child, and in the quiet aftermath of betrayal, That choice became the only thing that kept the story from turning into pure destruction. Because sometimes, the most powerful form of love isn't romance, it's responsibility. And Marcus Brooks carried it, through the test, through the pain, through the collapse, until his son could stand on his own and say, with a steady voice, "I'm still me."